Hello, everyone. My name is Tim B. Green, and this is Crush It Club episode 47, not Ikigai. So I have a little bit of a, I won't call it triggered, but it's as close as I've probably ever been about something. It's unfortunate. This just so happens to be my favorite Japanese word and one I've known for a long time. I learned it from Daniel Buntner from his TED Talk, How to Live to 100 Plus. Ironically, while I lived in Japan, I learned a Japanese word, my favorite Japanese word, from, I think he's American, Westerner, while being located in Japan. So that's a little bit interesting to me. But the reason I'm bringing this up is even some individuals I respect, some authors, unfortunately having, and not their fault, Ikigai has been marketed as something it is not. Instead of saying this is a model based on Ikigai or the Ikigai model of success or purpose, they've just translated Ikigai directly across to a Venn diagram with usually considering 4 different aspects, 3 of which have fuck all to do with Ikigai. So that's why I feel like I'm obligated to correct this. The internet, unfortunately, is not only a wellspring of knowledge, but a wellspring of bullshit. So what has happened is they think of it as your purpose in life as being the top circle, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what others need, except these 3 bottom circles do not exist in the concept of Ikigai. Ikigai, according to Daniel Buntner, was the reason for which I wake up in the morning. I have talked to dozens or quite possibly hundreds of Japanese people in Japan, just in case anybody was wondering, about Ikigai, because I love the word and I have my own Ikigai, which if it isn't obvious here, is inventing. So that's what I do with my consulting. I'm inventing solutions, taking what people's needs are and then giving them solutions specific to them based on sound scientific principles rather than metaphysics, pseudoscience, and nonsense. So unfortunately, there's also sort of a not Ikigai movement that I found online, and they're also peddling their own wares. Instead of telling the actual meaning of Ikigai, they're saying, that thing with the Venn diagram is not Ikigai. Here's true Ikigai, and then making their own bullshit version of Ikigai, which is not actually Ikigai. And their system, their thing that they're selling, or so it appears. Ikigai is simply the reason for which you wake up in the morning, and the individual who shared this with me is half Japanese and half American. And the term half is kind of a little bit derogatory, mostly on the Japanese side, because gaijin, which means outside people, slightly less rude or harsh than the N-word, but not by a lot, isn't really well accepted, to be honest, in Japanese society. So the thing is, I would say he's qualified since he lives in Japan. He is both a native English speaker and a native Japanese speaker. His definition to me, and this was, like I said, the many dozenth or probably into the hundreds, I don't know. I never kept track over the last 15 years or so of people I've talked, Japanese people I've spoken with about Ikigai. And he said it's better translated as life's motivation. Well, there's a ton of people out there who have something that they're motivated by, that they love. Maybe they love music or they love singing, but they suck at it. So according to these different models, which, like I said, are really selling something, that's not Ikigai. Well, they're wrong. That's all Ikigai means, is something that you passionately love to do, which gives your life purpose or gives you a reason to wake up in the morning. It motivates you. And I actually tried translating not ikigai. Now, normally in Japanese, what you say is you say the subject first and the verb second. So I tried ikigai janai, which means Japanese not. And when it translated back into English, it was, it's not worth living. Okay, that's not what I mean by it, but that's the way translation came across. And then I tried the reverse, where I put the janai, ikigai, and I can't remember what it was, but it was also not the nuance I was looking for. It was not correct. But essentially, what ikigai has been sold as is not correct. And they seem, since it seems like it's somebody who did a TED Talk, an Indian who did a TED Talk, and then clearly a Japanese American or Japanese Westerner who is native, potentially, I would say by their speaking, since I have easily over 10,000 hours of this. They were obviously born and raised probably in the US, selling the Ikigai. Do they speak Japanese? I don't know. But having talked to, as I said, dozens and probably hundreds of Japanese people, no one has ever brought up a philosophy about small habits and working towards a purpose, which is your career. It's none of that. It simply means your purpose for which you wake up in the morning, your purpose for living, your life's motivation. The reason I have a problem with this is, simply put, it's people trying to culturally appropriate. I've never used that word before because normally I think it's funny. The idea of a simple Japanese, or more accurately, Okinawan phrase, and then make it into a product and pretend that's the way those people in the exotic, wise, ancient East used to make their lives fulfilling. And that is not true. It is a Western product. The not Ikigai and the Ikigai with the Venn diagrams, neither of them have anything to do with the true purpose of Ikigai and what it means. It's much simpler than that. So there's lots of people in the world who are inventors, who make no money. It doesn't matter that the world happens to need it. It doesn't matter if you happen to be great at it or not. It doesn't matter whether you can get paid for it or not. You could easily have an Ikigai that is in no way the other sections of that Venn diagram or a guide to your life. It's just something you love. Maybe you love a certain type of food. You can't even make it. You just like okonomiyaki so much. It's your purpose for living. So while I completely agree that you should follow your bliss or Ikigai, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and make your Ikigai into your career, taking those other components of the Venn diagram, those 75% of that popular Venn diagram that even academics are now using, unfortunately, is completely wrong and has nothing to do with the definition of Ikigai. So what I'm trying to do here is basically straighten out the record, and I'm happy to hear from any Japanese people, native Japanese people, people who have spent their life speaking and in Japanese culture, who can tell me otherwise to correct me. Kind of thinking nobody's going to come forward because Ikigai is not the thing it's been packaged to be. It is simply what brings you joy in your life, purpose in your life, motivation to your life. And I am the number one person who tries to help you do stuff like create that fake Ikigai Venn diagram version, but that's not what Ikigai means. That's really all I have to say today, because like I said, this is a passionate one for me. Ikigai is what it is, not some gaijin prepackaged sold product. My name is Tim B. Green. This has been Crush It Club 47, not Ikigai. Bye for now.